Hey everyone, this is DPK again. Come back with the UFC 152 prelims wrap up. Um, First fight you have to start with on this was Evan Dunham and TJ Grant. I thought this would be a very good fight. I did not expect the slugfest, bloody war that it turned into, with Dunham getting a massive gash running straight up and down his forehead and just bleeding everywhere, and still just bringing it to TJ Grant, and Grant more than happily firing back. I mean, both these guys, I think their best work in UFC has been done in the grappling department, and here they just kind of slugged it out. I thought Grant won the fight, even though it was very close. Dunham scored some late takedowns in every round, but Grant seemed to land the better shots, and I mean that was a clear-cut fight of the night. I mean, it was a great fight to watch, and neither man should be ashamed. But it's a in my mind big step forward for T.J. Grant. 3 straight wins at lightweight since dropping down from welterweight. He's not in the mix right now for title shot, but he is probably one fight away from having his name really mentioned in that. It will be very interesting to see how UFC matches him up next. This is a very tough guy with a great grappling, and he showed some better stand up right now and just a very good will to win. Once again, not saying he's in there right now, needs get in that category of the top 10 fighters, but he's knocking on the door with a nice win here, and like I said, just be interested to see how they match him up. I think the Wyman Sass winner is about the perfect uh, fight for him, and no shame to Evan Dunham in a losing effort. I mean, that was a very good fight, and looking forward to seeing him again moving forward. Other fighters of note, Vinny Magalhaes comes back from his exile off of the UFC island after Tough Eight. Lost the finale to Ryan Bader, where he's in the finals, then lost to Elliot Marshall. Cut. Did very well for himself, and jiu-jitsu around the world, winning world titles, and then winning the M1 title, and then famously auctioning it off on eBay. Uh, that kind of keeping his name out there, and came back and in the first round. Looked like he was gonna get Prokryak submitted, couldn't do it. And then the second round, just sweet armbar. It's kind of jiu-jitsu. The term I put this in my preview. Term world class gets thrown around a lot in UFC, and with him, it's no joke when you're talking about his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And he did look like he had some uncomfortable moments, maybe his nerves. He's worked very hard, openly campaigned for this, and maybe felt the nerves to deliver. But now that he's back, he looks like a guy who well, I don't know how much noise he can make. He is still a young guy in an aging division who could sneak up there and get his name into the mix of fighters who can be a factor moving forward. Sean Pearson and Lance Benoist. I mean, this is another very good fight. And some nights this would have been the fight of the night if Dunham and Grant wasn't there. These guys threw down pretty hard. Benoist was in trouble a few times, then had Pearson in trouble late in the fight. Back and forth, and Pearson gets the win, a hard earned, well deserved win, and just a very good fight to check out if you got the time. I think the most disappointing performance of the night, from my opinion, was Jim Hedis. Was just expecting much more of him. This is a guy after his first 2 fights. We kind of I don't I wasn't clearly not the only one who thought he was working his way up and being the top 15 and then probably the top 10 here in the matter of a couple of years, and be a long time contender. And then last night it was frustrating to watch. There was no sense of urgency. He came out, it seemed like his initial tactic was to block punches with his face. Uh, he it was just very difficult to watch because he couldn't his takedowns look sloppy, and he's a grappler who needs to get the fight down. Everything he was doing to get the fight to the mat looked sloppy. He got the fight to the mat, and then looked overconfident, like he couldn't. And then Brimage was able to get back up. He was trying one thing to the next, and I just think maybe we overrated Jim Hedis a little bit, or maybe he just started believing his own hype. I think we'll find out in short order. It'll be interesting to see how they match him moving forward. I mean, he still almost won the damn fight. But a nice win from Marcus Brimage. I'm gonna release some of my hatred from the stink fest they put on with Maximo Blanco when I went to the fights over in Atlanta, and I'll let that go now and say this was a very good fight. Two of Brimage's 3 fights in UFC have now been very good and entertaining fights. So good win for Marcus Brimage moving forward. The other fighter really deserves some note is Seth Baczynski, now on a 4-fight winning streak with 3 stoppages at welterweight. He really has earned the right to move up and fight some tougher competition and give himself a chance to move into the top 25. And first round knockout, perfect left hook counter right on the button, dropped him, and it was an impressive shot and shows Baczynski's got some power in his hands. So nice win, and Seth should be moving off of Facebook forever right now and moving up into the prelims. Another fighter worth mentioning is Charlie Brenneman. I honestly think we've seen Charlie's last UFC fight for a while. He might earn his way back in, but he falls to 4-4 with a quick stoppage. He's now been stopped in the first round in 3 of his last 4 fights, and he won a boring decision over Daniel Roberts. In between those, he's lost 2 in a row now, and Daniel Roberts was subsequently cut. And after Brenneman beat him, if that gives you any feel for where Brenneman stands on the roster. I mean, this is a guy whose big win over Rick Story was followed up with a loss, then the boring win, then two more first round losses. So he's now 4-4 in UFC, but like I said, he's never finished an opponent in the UFC. Well, he's been finished in all 4 of his losses. In a division that's as deep as welterweight, there's fights he could win. I have no doubt Charlie could win fights up in the bottom half of the division, but UFC's not really going to keep around a guy who's now in his early 30s. I believe he's right around 30, and who isn't finishing fights and is getting finished whenever he steps up in competition. I could be wrong. I've been wrong on these before, but from what I saw, I think it's time for Charlie to head out of the UFC and move on. He just hasn't brought it the last 4 times out, and fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 4 times, okay. Go complain about things on the regional scene, and have a good career. We'll see you when you start finishing some fights. That's kind of my wrap up. There's some other fights. Mitch Gagnon looked pretty good. Kyle Noak, the guy who beat Brenneman, that was like I said, just landed a very solid punch. And some people thought the stoppage was quick, but at the point the ref made the commitment to jumping in and stopping it, Charlie was in a bad way. So just because you recover once the refs diving, waving people off and the fighter backs off, that doesn't mean that the ref wasn't right when he jumped in. So good stoppage there. But that's kind of the highlights of very good fights. All the Facebook fights, first round stoppage. Headed Brimage was a good fight. All the fights were entertaining and compelling in my mind on the undercard. Very good way to get the night started and carry it into the main event for the most part in the main card. Um, that's completes the UFC 152 wrap up. Great night of fights after a long absence of UFC, and looking forward to get right back into it next Saturday with UFC from on Fuel coming from England. Then in the weekend after that, another UFC on FX, and then weekend after that, you get UFC 153. So we get busy again. Some great fights coming up. It'll be a great time to be a MMA fan. So this is DDK. You guys enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you later.